Hi everyone, my name is Matthew Gerstman, and I am apparently here to tell you how to double your salary. So I know that you're all just really antsy for me to get to the next slide because I made this title as clickbaity as humanly possible. So let's just do it, shall we? Oh no, are my slides working? Oh yeah, there we go. You just gotta ask for it. And we're an NBC, so I went with the SNL gif because applause for NBC, please. Seriously, we're hanging out at 30 Rock. How cool is that? And to be clear, I don't know what you're making, so if you're making like I don't know, Rebel, what's your allowance?
I don't know.
Okay, well let's double it. If you're above that, I can't make any promises because I don't know what you're making.
Well, I'm 9 years old, so it's $9.
Okay, cool. So let's get you up to 18. So anyway, today we're here to talk about salary negotiations. We'll also cover a little bit about how stock works at software companies, and we'll talk a little bit about how startup fundraising works, mostly as it pertains to like job searches and salary negotiations and stuff like that. So my name is Matthew Gerstman. I am an engineer. During the summer, I wear shorts and a t-shirt, but today I was like, I'm talking about money, so I'm going to channel my inner finance bro, and I'm going to put on the one blazer I own and some nice shoes. So that's what I'm doing here. I live and work in New York. I am a co-host on the podcast, The Console Log. My other co-host is right there texting his wife or someone.
I'm reading about you.
Oh, thanks, buddy. That's my friend Harry. He offered to come up here and do interpretive sign language, and I said, that sounds great, except he doesn't actually know sign language, so it would just be offensive. So anyway, you can also follow me on Twitter at Matthew Gerstman or see my slides at negotiate.matthewgerstman.com. Also, seriously, please follow me on Twitter. My success metric for most things I do in life comes from external internet validation, so if you could just if you can all pull out your phones and follow me, that'd be great.
Wow, you're really assertive.
Yeah. Yeah, hello, thank you.
Please follow me.
Yeah, and I'm in front of everyone, so I can just tell them to do it. It's cool. Cool, okay, so before we talk about actual salary negotiation, I want to tell you a little bit about my dad. Yes, this is my father. And he is 6'4". He goes, excuse me? He goes to the gym twice a day. If he goes less than that, he is livid. He had pneumonia recently and it was a problem. Ken, he can probably take you. I'm sorry, but I mean, dude, I'm confident. My dad can take your kid's dad. But anyway, more importantly, he's a real estate agent. And growing up, I would listen to him negotiate, and even better, I would listen to him teach his clients how to negotiate. And I internalized a lot of this, and in fact, in high school, I did negotiate some of my grades, much like, oh my God, I'm forgetting her name from Clueless. I'm just embarrassing myself. Anyway, thank you, Cher. So anyway, the first thing we need to talk about before we can talk about negotiation is we need to talk about salary. And the thing is people want you to feel uncomfortable talking about salary. And there's a reason for that. It's because we don't want you to ask for more money. We want rich people to look as obnoxious as possible. This is from, I swear, I didn't really think about the fact that I was speaking at NBC when I picked all these NBC slides, but great. So anyway, the problem is then you end up negotiating and you get almost nothing. And this doesn't work out. So get ready for the next slide. I'm gonna show you some real numbers. So these are real salaries I pulled from a real tech startup. And all the hiring managers in this room just freaked out because they're like, crap. And you'll notice there is a massive pay discrepancy between many of the people on here. So we have mid-level engineers who are making 60 grand apart from each other. We have senior engineers making 60 grand apart from each other. And we have junior engineers who are making more than mid-level engineers. Now, something I want to note, a junior engineer in this case is probably a college grad. So if you're a self-taught or a boot camp grad, your 2 years experience is about equivalent to this. So Revel, when you're 11, you should be getting 90 grand from your dad. And the problem is that negotiations are asymmetrical. They are rigged to work against you. So I want to do a little experiment and talk about how you're looking at a negotiation versus how the company is looking at this negotiation. So here's how you are probably looking at it when you ask for money. That's a lot of money. Am I really worth that much? What if they cancel the offer? I hear this one a lot, and I have never actually heard of it happening. And finally, that money has to come from somewhere. You're thinking about it like a zero-sum event, right? Like you're thinking about it like the way you budget personally. Here's how they're looking at this negotiation. I need to close this candidate. I wonder what else they're thinking. What's for lunch today? That seems unrelated. Oh, I need to close this candidate. Okay, at least we're back on track. I'm not spending my own money, I'm spending tech companies' money. And that's important because when you're asking for money, you're not asking the guy you're negotiating with for money, you're asking his boss's boss's boss for money. We're dealing with $1 million or $1 billion corporation here. They can afford to give you a couple extra grand. And then finally, they're probably thinking, I need to close this candidate. In fact, if you ever want to know what your recruiter or person you are negotiating with is thinking, here it is. This is all they're thinking all the time. I showed this to my recruiter friend, and he was just like, yes. So I am going to tell you the first secret of negotiating. Are you ready for the first secret of negotiating? Yes? Cool. So wait, before we do that, who here, there's probably like 4 of you, has seen me speak before? These ones? Yeah, so y'all know I love my girl Tay, and I couldn't not include her. And she says, are you ready for it? Which I just asked, so it makes me feel good. So here's the first secret that I want you to internalize and memorize and just never forget. It is a lot more money to you than it is to them. Literally always. And don't worry, I have the slide again. It is a lot more money to you than it is to them. So let's look at an example, shall we? Let's talk about $5,000. And I want you to consider the last raise you got and the last, salary negotiation you did. And in a raise, that could be $5,000 for an entire year's worth of work. But in a salary negotiation, you can pick that up in 5 minutes. So let's do another what you're thinking, what they're thinking, shall we? So here's what you're thinking when you ask for $5,000. Damn, even after taxes, that's a whole vacation. $5,000. Seriously, $5,000. It would be so greedy of me to ask for $5,000, and then you talk yourself out of it, you get in trouble, you say, no, that's too much. You are graceful like our former president, and you just get in trouble. Here's what they're thinking. That's it? I'm going to tell them I have to ask my boss, because then it looks like I'm doing them a favor. And guess what? They have just pulled a Jedi mind trick on you, friends. Here's what they have done. They have appealed to authority. But you can do that too. Just wanted that gift to play. Anyway, they have to ask their boss. You have to ask your family. And your family can mean literally anything. It can mean your spouse, it can mean your parent, it can mean your sibling, it can mean your cat, it can mean the teddy bear you grew up with. It doesn't actually matter because they're not even allowed to follow up on who your family is because it's just illegal. So you just want them to think that you're hesitating, regardless of if you are, so that way they throw more money at you to stop, just to get you to sign faster. So the next secret, and Tay is back to ask, are you ready for it? Is everyone ready? Next secret? Yeah. Hey, you were not enthusiastic about that. Cool. Don't talk about money until they're ready to give you an offer. And if you want to go for hard mode, get them to say a number first. If you break this rule, you are setting money on fire. Because any number that you say is going to be an immediate upper bound. Any number that they say is going to be an immediate lower bound. So here's what usually happens during an interview. Your very first phone call, and this is before a text screen, and you say, I want to make $100,000. And they say, that is reasonable. We can probably make that happen. And then you pass your first phone screen, and then on the next phone call, they're like, hey, you wanted $95,000, right? And they keep doing this until you're at the negotiation stage, and they have whittled you down until you're just praying they don't do it any further. So you need to acknowledge that they are manipulating you. And you need to delay the conversation until the offer stage. And I'm going to teach you some magic words to delay the conversation. Those words are, of course, Wingardium Leviosa. Maybe not. Maybe if you're talking to me, it'll work. Otherwise, you might scare them away. But here are the actual magic words. Let's wait to see if this is a good fit before we discuss comp. And trust me, say the word comp, it makes you sound so informed. And literally, you are going to have to repeat this a lot, and that's okay. Just keep repeating it over and over again. You in the back taking a picture, you know what you're doing. If you want the slides, they're at the bottom there. Also follow me on Twitter. Next secret. I'm not going to ask if you're ready this time. Your body is ready. Here it is. Practice saying the biggest number you can with a straight face. $1 million. Okay, I'm going to be totally honest. I don't make anywhere near that. So if you're asking for $1 million, do not come to me. If you want to buy me something nice, though, I'd appreciate it. But no, you need to practice saying the biggest number you can with a straight face because they're inevitably going to give you less than you asked for. So you need to ask for more than you want. If you want 100, you ask for 120, and then you're glad when they gave you 100. The next topic is leverage. And this is really important when you're negotiating with someone. So their goal is to close you. Anything that can prevent that is leverage. The absolute best form of leverage is a counteroffer. But here are some general things you can do to get leverage. First of all, I just said you can have a counteroffer. Second of all, you can express concern about anything intangible. Your start date, your team, etc. Even if you are totally 100% on board with the job, make something up. Say you're worried about the commute. And then that way they'll just be like, here's an extra $2,000, please sign. Because again, it's not that much money to them, but it's a lot to you. Here's the next one. You can have a counteroffer. I really cannot overstate this. This is my favorite one. Still be actively interviewing elsewhere. In fact, it is the second best thing to a counteroffer because here's why. Tech companies, surprise, are full of themselves. And they think, wow, they passed my interview, they can pass any interview. We need to get them to sign as quickly as possible because everyone else wants to hire them, even though you're sitting there feeling, I can't believe I passed that algo interview. That's how I always feel, but really, like, it's the truth. And then finally, you can actually have a counteroffer. Did I make that point clear? No? Okay, here's a GIF. This is from a recruiter memes website. I have recruiter friends and I run this by them because I want to like really hammer this in. Now, one common tactic for diffusing a counteroffer from a recruiter is to provide an exploding offer. And what that would mean is that they say, hey, like here's your offer, you have a week to sign it, otherwise, bye. Here's how you can diffuse that very easily. First of all, it's a trap. You should have already known that. Second of all, when you're first starting the interview process, you should bring up your timeline. So when you get at the very beginning, you should say, you know, I'm interviewing with these 5 companies. I plan on seeing them all through. This is the date I want to take a new job. And just make that all super clear up front. So then later in the interview, when they try to be difficult, like you just have already made that clear and then they're the bad guy. So let's talk compensation now. And you've already seen some numbers. Now I'm going to show you an even bigger, scarier number. I'm going to show you what Google pays a new grad fresh out of college. Yeah. So I pulled this from levels.fyi. It is a great website that you can look at to see what any big tech company pays. They have all of them. They get less accurate as the levels move up because, fun fact, rich people don't want to report their salaries, but all the new grads do. So anyway, keep in mind, this person probably comes from a top school and had 2 internships. And so if you're a little earlier in your career, just be focused on learning as much as possible, and then you can start, applying to Google and trying to get this. But this is broken up into 3 distinct parts. We've got our salary, our stock, and our bonus. And then those make up the total compensation. So we'll break down what each of those are. So base salary. You already know what that is. This is what feeds you. This is just like what lets you stuff your face. This is the paycheck you get every other week or twice a month, whatever it is. That's your base salary. That's like the most important one of your day-to-day. The next bit are stock options, which I really want to talk about because a lot of people deal with at startups. And startups are going to try to convince you that stock options will be worth a fortune. They want you to believe that this is your winning lottery ticket and that you will retire from working at this company for 2 years. Here's the problem. It is a lottery ticket. It's just a losing one. So they're going to try to convince you to take less pay because of stock options. But keep in mind, Google's paying $120 plus a real amount of stock that's actually worth something. So maybe say, hey, I'll take 100 and give me a lot of stock options even though they are unlikely to be worth anything. I have never made money on stock options from a startup I've worked at. Yeah. But here's what they are. Stock options are the option to buy stock in the future at today's price. And we'll run through an example. So let's say you have 10,000 options. So you have what's called a strike price. And the strike price is the price you pay per share. In this example, we'll go with 10 cents per share because it's a nice, easy number. So IPO day happens, and the company is now worth $100 per share. And if you can do some fast math, that's $1 million. By the way, I'm bringing this back. It is coming back in. This will be in all the talks at next year's ReactConf. You wait. So now you need to do what's called exercising your option. This is the process of buying your shares. So in this case, you have 10,000 shares, which are worth 10 cents each, and you're going to buy those for $1,000. But warning, taxes are going to come up. So you need to pay taxes on almost $1 million. Keep in mind, again, this is unlikely because your options will probably be worth nothing. But yeah, on the bright side, you get to pay the taxpayer card more often. So there's that. Oh wait, someone being a jerk because they're making more money, that's unheard of. Cool. Next bit you need to know about is vesting. So this is the process of getting your shares. The standard deal is a quarter of your shares after a year, and then you get them on some regular schedule after that. So if you join January 1st, the following January 1st, in this case, you get 2,500. RSUs are just like actual stock that you would get at a public or almost public company. These are much less common unless you are working for a big name tech company you've already heard of. So I'm not going to go into them, but just be aware of them. The other thing that isn't terribly common are bonuses. Signing bonuses and annual bonuses do exist. You can always be like, hey, I'm not thrilled with my salary. Would you mind giving me a signing bonus? And maybe they'll say yes. They likely won't. But hey, it's a trick you can have up your sleeve. Cool. Now you know all about money at startups. So all that was total compensation. Let's talk a little bit about how funding works. So seed funding. This is a company that has probably taken less than $1 million in funding. They probably don't know what they're doing. They're probably less than 10 employees, and they're going to be constantly figuring out what's going on. So really, don't join a seed stage startup unless you know what you're doing. Series A companies, they have probably taken tens of millions in funding. They should have a real business plan and 10 or more employees. Your job will likely be there in a year, maybe not much longer, but Series A is a great stage to join a company, especially if you're early in your career. And then Series B or above, these are companies that are relatively established startups. They've probably taken 50 to 100 million in funding. They really have a real business plan. They have more than 50 people with jobs there. And you can actually check out all startup funding at angel.co. It's a great website I recommend. And if they're above Series C or D, just keep in mind they better be doing well. Otherwise, they're just diluting their shares. So last bit I want to get a little preachy now. What are we optimizing for? Well, we're optimizing for happiness. And as you know from society, money is not equal to happiness, but money is roughly equal to comfort. So what else is important when you are picking a job? How much are you going to learn there, especially if you're earlier in your career? What's the work-life balance going to be like? How much vacation do you get? This is one of my favorite things to flag, parental leave. Even if you don't want kids in the next 10 years, if an employer gives their employees 3 to 5 months off when they have a kid, that means they care about their people. So just like, it's a good thing to flag. And then if you are a parent, if your kid's sick, can you work from home? What's the commute like? And then, do you actually want to live in the place where the job is? I never want to live in the Bay Area, so I don't interview there. Joke was kind of funny. And then lastly, this topic deserves its own slide. Are there any moral quandaries with the work you're doing? So we have tech companies doing a lot of damage in the world, and you can get paid a lot of money to do bad things, which might appear to be like this, but is actually a lot more like this. So anyway, I hope that you've really learned something today. This is Kyle's dad from South Park. And let's get you some money. And seriously, please follow me on Twitter. It validates me. Thank you so much.